Good morning. All right. Mahin, we have Ashley. All right, so I think we can just kind of get started. And as people come in, they can join us. All right, so good morning, friends. Thank you for joining the Northern Virginia Baha'i Center Sunday morning program. This is a kind reminder that we will be recording today's talk. The recording will be shared on YouTube page, on our YouTube page that will be made available in the week. We have muted everyone to reduce feedback, and now we will begin our program with our morning devotionals and a small excerpt recognizing the Black Wall Street and also the Canadian Indigenous groups. During the Tulsa Race Massacre, which occurred over 18 hours from May 31st to June 1st, 1921, a white mob attacked residents, homes, and businesses in the predominantly Black Greenwood neighborhood of Tulsa, Oklahoma. The event remains one of the worst incidents of racial violence in US history, and for a period remained one of the least known. That was from history.com. We also would like to make mention that we will continue to have all Canadian Indigenous groups in our prayers who have been impacted by any residential school throughout history and any findings that has came about in the recent days. So if you can please join me for a moment of silence. Thank you. We also would like to encourage all participants to turn their cameras on and to create a welcoming atmosphere for a meaningful conversation. And now the morning devotions.
Here comes love from the world above. Here comes love from the world above. precious than silver. Oh, this more precious than silver. This more precious than silver. Oh, here comes love from the world above. Oh, here comes Andrew Gardner from the world above. Michael Schweizer. Here comes love. Jimmy Travis, yeah. Here comes love. Here comes Medgar Evers from the world above. Oh, here comes love. Yeah. From the world above. Oh, Rosa. He only lives on. Reverend Martin Luther King. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Comes Vernon Dolber. Here comes love from the world above. Oh, here comes love. Emmett Lamar Smith. O'Neill and William Moore. Reverend George Lee from the world above. Samuel Lord. Oh, yeah, yeah. Here comes love. The Reverend Bruce Gander. Herbert Lee. Here comes Marshall. Here comes love. Oh, here comes love. Yeah, yeah. From the world above. Stokely Carmichael. And the Reverend James Reed. Here comes love. Here comes love. Here comes love from the world above. Here comes love. Here comes love.
Thank you for sharing those devotions. We welcome all friends near or far to the program. As a kind reminder, we will be recording the program. Following the recording, we will share the program on our YouTube page. Now we would like to invite you to continue participation in today's talk with Ehsan Bayat on living the life. Ehsan Bayat worked for 4 years at as the regulatory analyst for Americo Energy. In this period, he provided support to the engineering and geological staff, performing data mining and presentation of such data as maps and charts for decision making. For the next 3 years, he was responsible for 8 projects performing engineering duties, production monitoring, and identifying and implementing production enhancements to his projects. He also acquired significant operational skills and participated in the drilling and workover activities of the company. Over the past 15 years, alongside his other duties, Ehsan has developed valuable skills in project evaluation and has participated in all aspects of project acquisitions. He brings to New Dawn expertise in data extraction and data management for oil and gas project evaluations and overseeing the acquisition of process. Mr. Ehsan Bayat was honored by Hart Energy as a champion of the next generation of oil and gas professionals in their 40 under 40 for 2020. We encourage everyone to participate in today's conversation during the morning program. Use the chat box to share your thoughts, ideas, and reflections. Feel free to raise your hand to ask questions. If you wish to share questions anonymously, kindly send them in the chat to Nakia as the MC. I will ask them on your behalf. The dialogue today is interactive, so please feel free to share your thoughts if you desire. Through these conversations, we hope to learn together and elevate our spirits. Thank you so much for being with us today. Let us welcome our friend and brother, Ehsan Bayat.
Thank you, dear Nakia. What a beautiful introduction. And I truly love this space of the North Virginia Baha'i community. It's truly a great space of learning. It's intimate, it's warm, and great conversations happen here. Today, I would like to share something very precious. And this is, what does it mean to be a Baha'i? What does it mean to live the life of a Baha'i? And so this, and on the micro level, on our inner life, and then I will take it to the macro level on how we should do it as a community and work as a community towards achieving these goals of what it means to live the life. So this is a very important topic, and I wanted to share some thoughts on it. Okay. So let us get started. So let me slideshow. So this is just a section on the course that I created called Creating Communities of Oneness. And I had actually adapted this first part specifically for North Virginia because I was thinking about this specific topic. So I'm going to share this with you. So these are some of the topics that I'm going to be covering, and probably will take maybe 1 or 2, even 3 sessions, because this is such a large subject of how to not only avoid strife and estrangement within your community, create love and unity, promoting justice, rooting out racial prejudice within the Baha'i community. How important is that, right? So I've extracted the writing specifically on how, as individuals, we should go about doing this practically and what steps to do on how to accomplish this. And then how cool is this? The necessity for courage and wisdom in all matters. So this is another major topic. So that's why you could say this is a subject so large and so many subtopics that it will probably afford more than 1 session. But before we start getting into the subject, I want to frame this. Over 158 years ago, a prisoner, an exile, his name was Baha'u'llah. He was in Baghdad. This is the supreme manifestation of God for this day and age, the comforter, the Lord of the age. 158 years ago was in Baghdad. And there for 12 days in the Garden of Rezvan, he proclaimed his mission. And during his course of his life, he suffered inordinate sufferings, sufferings that no pen, no ink can describe. He lost his son from the skylight. And remember, dear friends, many individuals in this world have suffered, absolutely, great sufferings. But Baha'u'llah, the Supreme Redeemer, Lord of this age, have power like that to quell all ails and bring back forth life from the point of death. There his son dying, Mirza Mehdi, the purest branch. He could have just like that. His Holiness Baha'u'llah, I bring this back because I want you to think about these. Because Baha'u'llah in this extract says, remember my days during thy days and my distress and banishment in this remote prison. This is from the Tablet of Ahmad. And be thou so steadfast in my love that thy heart shall not waver, even if the swords of thine enemies rain blows upon thee. and all the heavens and earth arise against it. Remember my days during thy days, and my distress and banishment in this remote prison. Right? We have to bring his life before our eyes. Think about his sufferings. Why, dear friends, why should we bring his sufferings and remember his days during thy days? For what reason? I shared this, just one of the many reasons to do this. Because why did the manifestation of God, this Lord of the age, fulfillment of all the prophecies from all the past dispensations, Supreme Redeemer, Comforter, why did he undergo 40 years of imprisonment, exile, poisoning, loss of his son, inordinate amount of suffering? For what purpose? Why did he do all of this? It comes in Kitab Iran and in many other sources, but I will share this just one extract for us to contemplate, meditate on, and this will be the start of this section. Why did Baha'u'llah do all of this? This is in page 240 of the Kitab Iran. His Holiness Baha'u'llah says, and yet is not the object, the purpose, says, as is not the object of every revelation to do what? Effect a transformation in the whole character of mankind. A transformation that shall manifest itself both outwardly and inwardly, that shall affect both its inner life and external conditions. So this is the whole purpose, dear friends, of every revelation. The revelation of His Holiness Jesus Christ, the revelation of His Holiness Muhammad, Lord Buddha, Lord Krishna, every one of these divine lights, His Holiness the Bab, Baha'u'llah, is to do what? Affect a transformation in the whole character of mankind, inwardly and outwardly. Inwardly and outwardly. This is why they have appeared. The next line in this extract from the Kitab Iran, page 240, says, and if these manifestations of God do not, if we do not do what we're supposed to do, the futility of God's universal manifestations would be made apparent. Means this is a very profound quote, and I urge you to go to your Kitab Iran and look this up and study and reflect upon it and meditate on it, because it says the futility of God's universal manifestations would be made apparent. That means if you do not do what you're supposed to do, the entire purpose of the coming of Baha'u'llah would be futile. Futile. So what does that mean? What are we supposed to do in the sense of transformation? Transformation. Great question. Let us look at this. What are we supposed to do? Because spiritual progress means we are progressing from one state to another state to another state. So what is this aspect of transformation? Let us look into this. So this Baha'i faith that we have all subscribed to, and we call ourselves Baha'is. This is not just a social club. It's not just the Sunday service that we love, you know. This is a way of life. And this is an extract from the beloved guardian, Shoghi Effendi. The beloved guardian, Shoghi Effendi says, for the Baha'i faith is above all a way of life. It is not a mere philosophical or social doctrine. It is a closely knit and harmoniously functioning community, a worldwide spiritual fraternity which seeks to reform the world first and foremost by bringing about a deep inner spiritual change in the heart of individuals. To live the teachings of the cause should be the paramount concern of every true believer. And the only way to do so is to commune both in spirit and through actual concrete means with the entire community of the faithful. The Baha'i cause encourages community life and makes it a duty for every one of its followers to become a living, a fully active, responsible member of the worldwide Baha'i Fellowship. So to be inactive as a Baha'i means that you cannot be living the life, right? The Baha'i faith is active from day one. In fact, this is such a paramount subject on what it means to be a Baha'i. The very first to declare is in the cause of this faith. The very first to declare was Mullah Hussein, in the sense of the faith of the Blessed Bab. Even before the Bab proclaimed his mission, Mullah Hussein was already searching. It shows the level of activity in this day and age, right? The letters of the living were actively searching and seeking out. They had already prepared themselves spiritually and sought out independently the truth. This is a faith of activity. This is a faith of change. This is a faith of transformation. This is what is needed in this day and age. I share this extract with you. This is something that I love, and every one of you, dear friends, should bring this forth and reflect on it. You should have it on your, some people put the most important things on their fridge, or some people put them on their mirror so that they have them. But this is such an important letter from the Universal House of Justice written to an individual believer. It outlines the requisites for spiritual growth. So if you, dear friends, want to spiritually grow, these are the 6 items that the Universal House of Justice outlines. I've highlighted in blue for the individual, and the one in purple and red are how we interact with the greater society, okay? So Baha'u'llah has stated, this is directly from this letter. Baha'u'llah has stated quite clearly in his writings the essential requisites for our spiritual growth. And these are stressed again and again by Abdul Baha in his talks and tablets. This is from the Supreme Body, Universal House of Justice. One can summarize them briefly in this way. So these are the things you got to do every day to spiritually grow. Number 1, the recital each day of the obligatory prayers with pure-hearted devotion. Okay? Pray. So the acronym, if you all love acronyms to remember things, is PRISMS. P-R-I-S-M-S. PRISMS. Okay? That is the word to remember. The first one is P for prayer, right? The recital each day of one of the obligatory prayers with pure-hearted devotion. The next one is R, okay? What is R? Recital. So the next one is the regular reading of the sacred scriptures, specifically at least each morning and evening with reverence, attention, and thought. So it's recite the verses every morning and eve, right? Recite the verses every morning and eve. Why? Why should we do these? Baha'u'llah has revealed them in Kitab Ahdas, but why? Because that's our spiritual food. And this, it not only gives us the direction on how to live, but it also gives us the sustenance of keeping us aligned to, as they say, the straight and narrow. This is the straight and narrow, because it's so easy to go off course. And our mind often drifts in often the wrong ways. And our heart gets filled with prejudices by the world. So we have to keep our spiritual nourishment every morning and every evening. This is our prescription. Because remember, Baha'u'llah, the Lord of the age, is the divine physician. Divine physician. He's the doctor. And he knows his children constantly get sick. So he calls a spiritual appointment every day. He says, every day, I want you to come to my office. And what is that? That's our obligatory prayer. He says, every day, I want you to come to my office and submit, lovingly submit yourselves to my office. This is the obligatory prayer. Every day, your spiritual appointment, come to my office. And then he writes another prescription. He says, your next prescription is, I want you to every morning and every evening take these pills. This is from his writings. So every morning and every evening, take these prescriptions. And this is what you got to do to stay healthy. So that's recite the verses every morning. Then M, it's out to M for prisms is meditation. Meditation, prayerful meditation on the teachings, so that we may understand them more deeply, fulfill them more faithfully, and convey them more accurately to others. So why do we have to meditate? For what reason? Meditation is delving into our inner life, into our hearts. Because remember, dear friends, I just gave you this one type of aspect of meditation. One of the greatest problems facing this great country that we live in is racism, right? Racism is a plague. It is a disease of the soul, the spirit, the mind. It is destroying the inner fabrics of our country. Racism has affected people's hearts so that they are not only, their minds are literally distorted. So they see one thing and reality is a completely different other thing, right? So what is meditation? Meditation is when you delve into the sacred word and then reflect on your heart. So when you reflect on your heart, you say, oh my God, my heart is filled with prejudices. So that is where you start working the inner fight. You start working on the inner battle. You start working on yourself to uproot those prejudices from yourself, because you're taking the word, the creative word of God, and how it is in your life. And this is where transformation starts happening, and you start becoming that vehicle that God wants you to be. You see, this is very important of how meditation starts impacting your life and your own reality. Then, so that's M, right, dear friends? Now let us get it to next one. Strive, right? We've heard this beautiful song, strive that your actions day by day may be beautiful prayers. So this is number 4, the Universal House of Justice, striving every day to bring our behavior more into accordance with the high standards that are set forth in the teachings. So we got to strive. This faith is about work. It's not a passive faith. It's not a couch potato faith. It's not a, sitting back and, observing faith. This is not a faith of people being apathetic or just watching, observing. This is a faith of action. And how I love that. How exciting to be in the forefront, to be, a promoter of the racial justice of humanity. How awesome would that be, right? So strive. So this is one of the S's in prisms, okay? The word is prisms. This is one of the S's, strive, okay? Now we get to the first one of the color, the ones that are in sense different colors. So the first 4 is the inner life, right? You could do that in the privacy of your chamber. Recital each day of the obligatory prayers, privacy of your chamber. You, your Lord, privacy of your chamber. Regular reading of the sacred scriptures, privacy of your chamber. Delving into the sacred word. Prayerful meditation. You, your Lord, privacy of your chamber. Striving every day to bring your behavior into accordance of the high standards. That's between you and yourself and your Lord, and how you go under that. Now, this is so lovely. Now, number 5. What is this teaching the cause of God? And why did I make it purple as opposed to the other color red? The answer is this: because it is the most important of all of them. It is the king of all acts, the most meritorious of all deeds. And it is the fulfillment and the cornerstone of the foundation of all Baha'i activity. The cornerstone of the foundation of all Baha'i activity. This is from the beloved guardian. So if the foundation of all Baha'i activity is here, right? The actual cornerstone, meaning the very center of the center of the center of what it means to be a Baha'i is number 5, teaching the cause of God. So this, my dear friends, is what it means to be a Baha'i. Everything is fulfilled in when you teach the cause. Number 6, and this is to instruct. To instruct. In the prisms, the word prisms, to instruct. Selfless service in the work of the cause and in the carrying out of our trade or profession. So our perfect exemplar, servant of the cause of God, his example is service. So this is not only in the work of the cause, but also in our work, our profession. It should be in absolute love and service. So this is the other S in the acronym, prisms. And why I like this acronym of prisms, because together they're just a crystal, but the light, when it penetrates through, it radiates to all, everywhere, right? This is what a prism is. So this is, in essence, the 6 qualities, the 6, per se, tasks that and duties that each one of us must do to spiritually progress. But is that all there is? No, there's more. And why I love this is because this faith has so much. It is an ocean. To be a Baha'i is, as they say, a life. It is a work. It is a job. It is a duty. It is sacrifice. It is love. And so what else is there? This is from the great letter of the beloved guardian in the advent of divine justice that we're studying as a course in the Crimson Academy. So the beloved guardian outlines spiritual prerequisites. And these spiritual prerequisites are for the success of all teaching matters. The beloved guardian first outlines a rectitude of conduct. A rectitude of conduct. Rectitude means straight, right? Straight, correct, and this is actually to do with an attitude. So a rectitude of conduct, an abiding sense of undeviating justice, unobscured by the demoralizing influences which a corruption-rid political life so strikingly manifests. So the first one he outlines, rectitude of conduct, right? Then he outlines the next one, a chaste, pure, and holy life. Chaste, pure, and holy life. Unsullied means, unsullied and unclouded by the indecencies, the vices, the false standards, which an inherently deficient moral code tolerates, perpetuates, and fosters. So chaste, pure, and holy life, number 2. Then the third aspect is a fraternity freed from that cancerous growth of racial prejudice, which is eating into the vitals of an already debilitated society. These are the ideals which the American believers must, from now on, individually and through concerted action, strive to promote in both their private and public lives. Ideals which are the chief, what are they? They're their chief propelling forces that can most effectively accelerate the march of their institutions, their plans, and enterprises, that can guard the honor and integrity of their faith and subdue any obstacles that may confront it in the future. This is written 1938. The beloved guardian outlining 3 prerequisites for the success of all teaching campaigns, teaching projects. The success of all of these depend on a rectitude of conduct, a chaste and holy life, and freedom from racial prejudices. Boom, he outlines it just like that. Then, so let us go into what does it mean? What is this? What are these rectitude of conduct? What is this chaste and holy life? And what is this freedom from racial prejudice? Then this is at the micro level, right? Then we're going to explore it specifically. How does it impact me and my community? Because we want to create communities of oneness. Okay? This rectitude of conduct, this is direct quote from Advent to Divine Justice. This rectitude of conduct, with its implications, justice, equity, truthfulness, honesty, fair-mindedness, reliability, and trustworthiness, must distinguish every phase of the life of the Baha'i community. So this is, again, living the life, living the life. When we talked about that, it's a standard, it's a way of life, right? That every one of us has to bring ourselves into accordance. And we talked about that M. And do you remember what that M was? Meditation, right? And that meditation is, how am I doing? How am I doing? Am I living in accordance to his wishes? Am I practicing justice and equity? Am I being truthful in my speech? Because truthfulness is in our speech and honesty is in here. Am I being honest to myself, my thoughts? Am I fulfilling the wishes of my creator? Am I being a noble creation? Am I living how he is asking me to live? And we should look at that list of 6 that I outlined and think, am I doing this every day? Am I doing this every day? And if I am, you're spiritually progressing. How awesome is that? Then every day, because Baha'u'llah says, hidden words, bring thyself to account. Oh my God, this is one of the most powerful hidden words. It's bring thyself to account each day, ere thou art summoned to a reckoning, right? Got to do it. Bring yourself to account each day. And then His Holiness Abdul Baha, he says, someone asked him, it was this, the wife of Ali Khuli Khan, Florence. She asked Abdul Baha, says, my dear master, how can I live the Baha'i life? How can I live this Baha'i life? So many things we've already outlined, right? It's quite a list. And we haven't even got to all of them yet. And very simply, Abdul Baha said, Kam kam, ruse be ruse. Little by little, day by day. Little by little, day by day. This is how to do it, very simply. But we have to bring ourselves to account each day. Why do we have reflection gatherings in the institute process, right? Because that's the meditation, right? This is very important. That's on the macro scale, on the spirit, on the community level, is the reflection gathering, that space to reflect on the progress of the activities within the cluster. But the meditation is in the inner life, in the inner space, to reflect on your own spiritual progress. Am I living in accordance to the teachings and will of His Holiness Baha'u'llah, Lord of the age? Am I? These are things that we have to reflect on. We should each day have a reflection gathering within our lives. This is what Baha'u'llah is calling us to do. Now, chaste and holy life. Another one of these exhortations that the beloved guardian is calling us to arise to. This is from Advent to Divine Justice. It says, such a chaste and holy life with its implications, 5 qualities of chaste and holy life listed: modesty, purity, temperance, decency, and clean-mindedness. In this space, in this forum, we're not studying the Advent to Divine Justice. I have that in another space, and I've recorded all the talks in that space. And that can be shared in another space. But why I'm outlining this here, because to show what does it mean to live the life. And here in this extract from Advent, it says a chaste and holy life must be made the controlling principle in the behavior and conduct of all Baha'is, both in their social relations with the members of their own community and in their contact with the world at large. It must adorn and reinforce the ceaseless labors and meritorious exertions of those whose enviable position is to propagate the message and to administer the affairs of the faith of Baha'u'llah. It must be upheld in all its integrity and implications in every phase of the life. of those who fill the ranks of that faith, whether in their homes, their travels, their clubs, their societies, their entertainments, their schools, and their universities. It must be accorded special consideration in the conduct of the social activities of every Baha'i summer school and any other occasions in which Baha'i community life is organized and fostered. Purity, dear friends, purity. Purity of mind, purity of motive, purity of heart, clean-mindedness. This is something that we should work on, meditate, keep our hearts pure, keep our minds pure, keep our thoughts pure, keep our mouths clean. So these are things that the beloved guardian is exhorting us to, right? So this is chaste and holy life. Then what else is there? The third spiritual prerequisite for the success of all teaching matters: freedom from racial prejudices. Freedom from racial prejudices in any of its forms. This is from the beloved guardian. This is Advent of Divine Justice. This is a letter, dear friends, that every single one of you should go back and study and study and study. It should, at such a time as when an increasingly large section of the human race is falling a victim to its devastating ferocity. This is 1938, the beloved guardians writing this, and we see it's how much more it's magnified today. So this freedom from racial prejudices should be adopted as the watchword of the entire body of the American believers. Wow. Freedom from racial prejudice, I read that again, should be what? The watchword of the entire body of the American believers, in whatever state they reside, in whatever circle they move, whatever their age, traditions, tastes, and habits. It should be consistently demonstrated in every phase of their activity in life, whether in the Baha'i community or outside it, in public or private, formally as well as informally, individually as well as in their official capacity as organized groups, committees, and assemblies. It should be deliberately cultivated through the various and everyday opportunities, no matter how insignificant, that present themselves, whether in their homes, their business offices, their schools and colleges, their social parties and recreation grounds, their Baha'i meetings, conferences, conventions, summer schools, and assemblies. It should, above all else, become the keynote of the policy of that august body, which in its capacity as the national representative and the director and coordinator of the affairs of the community must set the example and facilitate the application of such a vital principle to the lives and activities of those whose interests it safeguards and represents. So, dear friends, when I ask you, what is the watchword? What is the watchword? Freedom from racial prejudices. This is the standard. And you see how many places that the beloved guardian says every space, whether in the Baha'i community or outside it. This is the watchword of the entire body of the American believers. So every Baha'i, this should be on his tongue. Every Baha'i, this should be how they are working on themselves and creating a community that is free from racial prejudices. You see this? How amazing this is. This almost, in sense, the beloved guardian is saying, this is what it means to be a Baha'i. Every one of these is what it means to be a Baha'i. And how important is, dear friends, that we study the Advent of Divine Justice, because it lays it out right there, that to be a Baha'i means to be an active force to combat to combat racism, to combat these ills, social ills in our society, and to work to eradicate this force of racism within our Baha'i community. This is a reality that explains what it means to be a Baha'i. Now, with that understanding and that definition, when it says this is a Baha'i, right? All of those inner life and inner qualities now to be free of racial prejudices. How can we do it? How can we do it within our Baha'i communities, right? That's a bigger question, right? How can we do it? So let's get into that, dear friends. That's why I created Creating Communities of Oneness, because now I've defined what all of this is, all this to live the life. Now, how can we first start going about doing it? The first step is, first, avoid strife and estrangement. Okay, this is from Baha'u'llah, gleanings from the writings of Baha'u'llah. And our first reader is my dear friend Emmanuel. Could you please read this extract from Baha'u'llah?
Sure. You are the stars of the heaven of understanding, the breeze that stirreth at the break of day, the soft flowing waters upon which must depend the very life of all men.
Excellent, dear Emmanuel. Also, could you read the extract on the left? Thank you so much.
O friends, be not careless of the virtues with which you have been endowed, neither be neglectful of your high destiny. Suffer not your labors to be wasted through the vain imaginations which certain hearts have devised. You are the stars of the heaven of understanding, the breeze that stirreth at the break of day, the soft flowing waters upon which must depend the very life of all men, the letters inscribed upon his sacred scroll. With the utmost unity and in a spirit of perfect fellowship, exert yourselves, that you may be enabled to achieve that which beseemeth this day of God. Verily I say, strife and dissension, and whatsoever the mind of man abhorreth, are entirely unworthy of his station. Center your energies in the propagation of the faith of God.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Very well read, dear Emmanuel. So this is from His Holiness Baha'u'llah. Here he is saying, he actually is giving us our station. It's very interesting. He says, ye are the stars of the heaven of understanding, the breeze that stirreth at the break of day, the soft flowing waters upon which must depend the very life of all men. What does this mean? This incredible extract from Baha'u'llah. It says, you are the stars of the heaven of understanding. This imagery. Dear friends, we have two stations, and the manifestation of God has three stations. So I'm just going to very briefly go into this. We find this is explored much more in the course in the Dispensation of Baha'u'llah course that the Crimson Academy is going to be putting out. But this, I just wanted to touch on this very briefly. As humans, we have two stations. We have our physical, which is the composite of elements and molecules creating our reality. This is all the physical molecules and everything that make our reality. Then our secondary station is our rational soul. And this is that soul that came into being at the moment of conception. This is our rational soul. So here Baha'u'llah is saying, ye are, says, ye are the stars of understanding. So here Baha'u'llah is saying that this rational soul has the capacity of understanding. And the star is the highest and most incredible form of composition that we know about in this cosmos. The largest and most powerful of matter. And it says that you are that. And it says all life is dependent upon you in the sense of understanding, because you are providing heat and light and everything in that sense of understanding. All life is dependent upon you. It says, on which must depend the very life of all men, right? So how important is that? And when I said there are 3 stations to a manifestation, they have that elemental physical reality too, just like us. They also have that rational soul, just like us, their human reality. But they also have that divine station of the manifestation of God. So this is how they differ, which is from eternal, have no beginning and no end. So this is how the manifestation of God is different. But as when I talk about humanity, this is our dual station. So we have to develop this rational soul. This is our goal in life, the acquisition of virtues. And so that we become this new race of men. In paragraph 28 and in paragraph 48, the Advent of Divine Justice, it talks about this new race of men. How it's about the acquisition of virtues that we all talked about. All of those things are talking about how to bring about us to be this new creation. And if you only focus on a few of those, sometimes, for example, if you start forgetting every day doing one of them, because the faith is holistic. This is very important, dear friends. I want to make sure you understand this concept. The faith is a holistic faith. And what do I mean by that? We cannot pick and choose what we like and what we don't like. Like, this is very important. Oh, I really like teaching. Yeah, it's great. Love teaching the cause. Beautiful. But man, I'm not very good at remembering to do my obligatory prayers. Sometimes I forget about, I'm not a morning person. Come on, arising, in the morning, every evening. Come on, I'm so busy at nights. This is a prescription, people. Come on. This is for your own well-being. Baha'u'llah sitting in a prison, and he's been revealing this stuff. It's not for his own. It did not benefit him. He did this for us. He did this for you and I, and to create an ever-advancing civilization. He did this for you, every one of us. So we got to abide by it. We cannot pick and choose this faith. It's called cherry picking. I really like this one. I don't like that one. I like this one. I'm going to do just a few of these. If we want to be true as a Baha'i, and remember, one of the qualities of rectitude of conduct is honesty. In here, are you truly being honest as a Baha'i, living in accordance to being a Baha'i, right? So we can't just pick and choose. We got to do it all, or not even just say, hey, I'm not it, because we got to do it. Got to try. We got to do it and be courageous, right? That is so important. And then we will move on. I have so many thousand different thoughts. And dear Nakia, please keep me on task and on time. Okay, we're good? I love it. Okay, I don't want to go off on too many tangents. Okay, moving on. So this aspect of avoiding strife and estrangement is spoken in so many places in the writings, because the hallmark of the faith is what? Unity, right? So we have to avoid any aspect of strife, dissension, and estrangement. So my dear Sandra, could you read this one?
Try again.
There you go.
I think I unmuted at the same time somebody else hit it. O ye that dwell on earth, the distinguishing feature that marketh the preeminent character of this supreme revelation consisteth in that we have, on the one hand, blotted out from the pages of God's holy book whatsoever hath been the cause of strife, of malice and mischief amongst the children of men, and have, on the other, laid down the essential prerequisites of concord, of understanding, of complete and enduring unity.
Excellent. Very well read. Thank you, Sandra. So here Baha'u'llah is saying he has blotted out any aspect that would be a point of contention, a point of strife, of malice from his divine books. So this is from Baha'u'llah. And the supreme organizing principle of this dear faith that we ascribe to is unity. And what is unity, dear friends? Think about it as an army. How many times is the beloved guardian, His Holiness Abdul Baha, talk about us as the army of light, right? Now think about it as an army. Unity is so fundamentally important to an army, right? When they go into battle, they have to be unified. If they're not unified, what happens? The army falls apart. Strife is infighting. The general, His Holiness Abdul Baha, he would be the commander. If you think about an army, the commander of His Holiness Abdul Baha, giving forth the call. The general, the beloved guardian, giving forth the call. In this day and age, the Supreme Universal House of Justice, giving forth the call. If the Baha'is, the soldiers are infighting, having strife, estrangement, apathy, they just don't care. Why should I listen to this? I'd rather just sit back. These are points of disunity. This causes the army of light. The one, when Baha'u'llah says, we could scroll back, when it says that all must depend upon us, right? The very life of all men depend upon us. This is the prescription of God in this day and age. The very life depend upon us. But what happens? If Baha'is are infighting, wasting time in frivolous discussions, and what happens? And not paying attention to the commands of the divine general. The army of light does not progress. The army of light stagnates if they're not focusing on rectitude of conduct, freedom from racial prejudices. The army of light is not focusing on this. So what happens? The army of light just sits there. There is no progress. There is no movement of the army of light. It's not that the army of light does not have the prescription, but it is not advancing. You see, this is so important. Dear friends, what else could be more important in this day and age addressing these kind of matters? Because this is talking about about the spiritual transformation of the individual and working on the spiritual transformation of society at large. This is what we have to talk about in our spaces. Now, I love this. This is great. I'm so happy to be with you. And so let us now talk about, this is another from Gleanings from the Writings of Baha'u'llah. And I remember when I was in university, I would get on the bus every day to go to university. And it was a long experience, 1 hour being on the bus. And I would have my gleanings. So I read several sections of gleanings every day on the bus. So whenever I read the gleanings, it comes back to me when I was in university, as I was reading. So this is from Gleanings from the Writings of Baha'u'llah. It says, nothing whatsoever can in this day, nothing whatsoever can in this day inflict a greater harm upon this cause than dissension and strife, contention, estrangement, and apathy among the loved ones of God. This is the biggest problem that we have in our Baha'i communities. Nothing in this day can inflict a greater harm upon this cause than dissension, strife, contention, estrangement, and apathy among the loved ones of God. Then Baha'u'llah says, flee them. Flee them means get away from these things. These are the worst possible things that you could have in your Baha'i communities. Flee them through the power of God and his sovereign aid, and strive. Oh, remember, action-oriented faith. We got to be action. Got to strive ye to do what? Knit the hearts together. Knit together the hearts of men. Knitting, I was terrible always at knitting. It takes a lot of time and patience, so it's not an easy process. So to weave the hearts of men together. And knitting is time and patience, and it is a form of love. It's an act of love to knit the hearts of men together. In his name, Baha'u'llah, the unifier, the all-knowing, the all-wise. So here, dear friends, I defined a few of these. What is strife? Strife, vigorous or bitter conflict, discord or antagonism, quarrel, struggle, clash, competition, rivalry. This is strife. And dissension, is discord, the difference of opinions, disagreement, especially violent quarreling or wrangling. We should be unified. The general have given the prescription. Imagine the doctor says, well, you've come to see me, and the doctor says, you got to take this medicine and this medicine. And you're like, no, I really don't think so. Well, that's really nice of you. You've given me that prescription, but I don't agree with you. And I think maybe I do this or that, or I'm just going to sit back and not even try it. You know, I'm not really sure. What happens? This is what is, as Baha'is in many Baha'i communities, and happens. And this is reality. The prescription is there. We got to do it. The doctor has given it. You got to follow the orders. And it's not only internally, but it's in the external aspect of our Baha'i communities, action, right? Okay, let us have another reader. My dear friend, Ismail, please read. I love hearing your voice, please.
Thank you, Ehsan. All contending peoples and kingdoms of the earth, set your faces towards unity, and let the radiance of its lights shine upon you. Gather ye together, and for the sake of God, resolve to root out whatever is a source of contention amongst you.
Excellent. Very well read, Ismail. So this term here, remember the beloved guardian translated gleanings from the writings of Baha'u'llah. So the language is perfect. Here, root out whatever is the source of contention amongst you, right? Root that out. We go to Advent of Divine Justice. How many times does the beloved guardian say we got to root out these prejudices within our hearts? Root it out. It is there. They're like weeds, and they go in and they take our minds and they take our hearts. And sometimes we have this type of prejudice or that type of prejudice, whether it's classism or racism or sexism or you name it. They form into our minds. And what does Baha'u'llah say? Root these out. Because every one of those creates dissension, creates strife, it creates animosity, and then above all, it creates apathy. And apathy, my dear friends, is when you just listen. Yeah, I really love this message from the house. It's like the doctor has given it. Yeah, I agree with that. That's really nice. I agree with it. But do you arise? Do you do it? What do you do? Nothing. They don't do anything. Man, this house of justice, I love it. In fact, I actually have a Baha'i card. Here it is. But what are you doing? They're not doing anything. They're not arising. That, my dear friends, according to what the beloved guardian said earlier, we covered it. In the first extract, a Baha'i is an active promoter of the oneness of humanity. Cannot be apathetic. This is, and then in the last extract, it says, flee away from those things. We got to be active. This is so important. Now, I love this extract. Oh, you see how all of these are coming from gleanings. You see how Baha'u'llah, one after another, as they say, hitting it home. Here Baha'u'llah says, if any differences arise amongst you, behold me standing before your face, and overlook the faults of one another for my name's sake, and as a token of your love for my manifest and resplendent cause. Wow. If any differences arise amongst you, behold me standing before your face, and overlook the faults of one another for my name's sake, and is a token of your love for my manifest and resplendent cause. We love to see you at all times, consorting in amity and concord within the paradise of my good pleasure, and to inhale from your acts. Oh my God, this is incredible. Imagine your acts, your deeds, your words, everything you do being like a fragrance. Isn't that awesome? I love the words of Baha'u'llah. This is incredible. He says your acts be like a fragrance. Imagine you doing such incredible things that you're in the service of Baha'u'llah, that it's like a fragrance emanating from you. And imagine as people are walking around you, they're like, man, this person's different. You know, and what are they sensing? It's that fragrance of that is emanated from you, their acts and qualities and attributes. That is so cool. The fragrance of friendliness and unity and loving kindness and fellowship. Then Baha'u'llah says, we shall always be with you if we inhale the perfume of your fellowship. Our heart will assuredly rejoice, for naught else can satisfy us. Oh, that's lovely. Any thoughts? We'll pause right there. Any thoughts, dear friends? Yes, dear Emmanuel, go for it. Nikki, you're the chair. I apologize for it. No, go for it. Emmanuel, feel free to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I have a question. I mean, and that I believe applies to Baha'is or non-Baha'is. I mean, when you talk with people, especially non-Baha'is, I mean, you can understand that most people, basically, they are aware, I mean, of the bad situation where society is right now. But I mean, if it's in the Baha'i community or outside the Baha'i community, basically you have 20% of people who are active, I mean, in doing things, I mean, going in the right direction. And you have about 80%, I mean, they are struck by apathy. And again, I mean, it applies to the Baha'i community. I was in California, 80% of the Baha'is are basically apathic. Here, it's the same. I mean, what would be your suggested recipe against that apathy, which is terrible? I mean, if we could imagine, I mean, if at least 80% of the Baha'i community and non-Baha'is would be active, I mean, in kind of making this society advance in the right direction, I mean, you can imagine, I mean, the fantastic results that we could have. But unfortunately, we have only about 20% of the Baha'is or non-Baha'is who are active. So what would be your suggested recipe to fight that terrible apathy?
Thank you, dear Emmanuel. Good question. 2 or 3 things came up in your discourse when you asked this question. First of all, in common speak, we say Baha'is, non-Baha'is. This is a dichotomy. This is something that creates boxes, as they say, you know, of one group and one group. And this is, we are lovers of Baha'u'llah. This is the reality. And this is one faith of one religion in the sense of the faith of God. And all individuals that have not accepted the manifestation of God of this day and age, they are still on a journey. It's just that they're still on this journey to find the love and source of the life that is being given this prescription to dwell on, as in there's a prayer, to dwell on the unpleasant things of life. You know, we're called not to dwell on these unpleasant things of life. We have to stay focused ourselves. We can surround ourselves and look at so-called statistics. You know, there's a very funny quote. It talks about, you know, 120% of statistics are false. How can a 120% of a statistic be false? Because it can only be 100%. But a statistic in itself doesn't really give information in that sense, because what is it based on? We know that there's inaction. We know that there's inactivity. We know that there's apathy. We know all of these things. The beloved guardian knew all of these things. So His Abdul Baha knew these things. That's why he wrote these writings. The prescription is not to dwell on these things, but the prescription is for you yourself to arise, for you yourself to be an example. Yeah, I know in my community in Greater Houston, there's individuals that are inactive in the sense, they're apathetic. I know in other cities, another place, that is a reality. But how are you becoming a fire of love that you can burn away any aspect of inaction around you? Because fire is molecules that are so heated up and energized that it vibrates at high intensity. And then what happens? They explode into that sense of burning fire. Are you that energized with the love of Baha'u'llah? And that what happens is when you are so energized and then you combust, you will set other hearts aflame. And that heart becomes a flame around you. And that heart becomes a flame around you. Are you that energized? Or are we just looking at the cold, dead lumps around us and saying there's so many cold, dead lumps around us? We have to be, this is the call of Baha'u'llah in this day and age, that you have to be so energized in the love of Baha'u'llah that you ignite, kindle the fire of love and burn away all things and set your feet into the land of the lovers. Kindle your feet. This is our call. Baha'u'llah is calling us to kindle our hearts. This is what we got to do. We cannot be looking around us constantly and looking at the dead and cold and blackness in the sense of misery around the world. We have to be energized in the love of Baha'u'llah. Yeah, there are a lot of people, and Abdul Baha's pillow was often soaked with tears. This is a reality. We know this because he would look around. Even the Baha'is themselves that would surround him would be inactive. But dwelling on those things just creates apathy within ourselves, creates sadness and sorrow, does not create energy. Energy comes from diving into the sacred word and then propelling that out. Teaching creates energy. Service creates energy. This is what creates energy. And energy is how can I be of service? How can I take the creative word and propel it into action? Looking at the aspect of freedom from racial prejudices, what are you doing in your community to not only educate yourself on that aspect, what are you doing to become a promoter of racial justice? Because this is the watchword as Baha'is. So how are you becoming an active force for change in your community? These are the thoughts that should be going in your mind than dwelling on inaction and apathy within our communities. Excellent question, dear Emmanuel. Thank you so much. Any other thoughts, questions? I saw dear Nikia posted that time is coming to a close. And thank you so much, dear Nikia. Thank you for everything.
No, I didn't want to cut you off if other people had questions. I see Paria has a question.
Yes, thank you, Nikia. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Wonderful, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to add that there's a beautiful passage by Abdul Baha in the Divine Philosophy that kind of addresses the power of every individual. To add to, the question that Emmanuel asked and what Ehsan was expressing, he says, as there is no one who has not his designated place in the world for there is nothing useless on this earth. We must treat each individual with respect and affection, for each is a sign of the divine favor and power. That power which has been able to draw such a being out of matter, make of him a creature with sensorial faculties, and endow him with the intellectual and spiritual potentiality. This is one of the visible proofs of divine power. Let us respect these living proofs. Abdul Baha. And I think it kind of, you know, sometimes I think we have um, a vision that activity seems that everyone must be doing similar things or coming together to do, but we don't know in the lives of individuals how they are being very active agents and how in their inner life, whether it's in their career past or whether it's in their home or whether it's with their children, that they may not be part of certain activities within the community, but definitely working towards to being an active change, agent of active change in the world of humanity. And I think this passage of Abdu'l Baha always reminds me of that, that how important it is for us to seek and understand what others are doing in what different ways, so that we may all become active agents in so many forms, not just in one form. And how bountiful in the faith that we have the institute process was one of the ways that makes all of us come together systematically. But there are so many also individual initiatives. So I just wanted to share that because I thought that was a very important question. And I wanted to just add to the wisdom that Ehsan was also sharing. Thank you.
Excellent share. Thank you, Pareja.
I do have a question to ask.
Please, John, please.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for explaining this. This was informative as to know more about this. I do have a question in regards to you did quote gleanings in regards to Baldo would say he did write. I'm kind of quoting. I just wrote it in a very brief quotation here. I believe he did say that let's blot out from the pages of God's holy book whatsoever hath been the cause of strife, of malice and mischief amongst the children of men, and have, on the other hand, laid down the essential prerequisites of concord, of understanding, of complete and enduring unity. Um, uh, I don't know the context of it. I'm not familiar with the whole writing, but can you elaborate on when he did write, let's blot out uh, these things from God's holy book? Uh, I mean, strife, mischief, these are sins. I'm not disagreeing with that, but can you just explain a little bit more about what in a holy book he's talking about and what is he referring to? Thank you so much.
It's an excellent question, dear John. And this is actually a subject for a whole nother talk. But I can just touch on it as the time is getting later. In every dispensation, the manifestation of God prescribes and reveals laws and ordinances for that dispensation. And in this dispensation, His Holiness Baha'u'llah revealed his most holy book, the Kitab Aqdas. And one of his first laws that he revealed is the annulment of jihad, the holy war. And so this was, and it's actually the lesser jihad that was annulled, right? So this is where that you go to war in the name of religion. So this was annulled because this was used and utilized in past dispensations for contention and wars and conflicts. And so this was annulled. So this is just one of the many things that he says we have blotted out and, per se removed anything that would be a point of contention, strife, all of that. So that's just one aspect. There's others that isn't for a future talk. But excellent question, dear John. Yeah, I'll leave it there. Excellent, thank you.
So if I may, just one more, just to follow up. Should we say? I mean, I don't want to be off context or too general here, but my impression of what you just shared, which was very helpful, is he referring to the book of Quran specifically, or he is referring general to the whole book of any type of holy books?
Great question, dear John.
Thank you.
Great question again. This is the faith of God, and sure, each dispensation had a divine revelation and they had their own book, but we should not look at this Quran here. This is all of it. This is how we should look at the faith of God, and it is all unfolding. This is why it's called progressive revelation. And shortly, I will completed the course on dispensation of Baha'u'llah. This is a magnificent letter. It is one of the world order letters. And this, I invite all of you to go through and learn, because this will really, your understanding, dear John, of the fundamental truths of this faith, in the sense of what does this progressive revelation mean? We may have a very shallow understanding of, oh, these points of light were revealed at different points in time, and that over time they have been revealing themselves, and the message have been per se updating over time. But there's a lot more to it. And there's actually our understanding of it should be a whole lot deeper in the sense of comprehension. But I want to invite each one of you to that space once it's created, because your understanding of the aspect of progressive revelation is a very fundamental truth in our Baha'i faith. So,
thank you so much, Ehsan. Appreciate it.
Yeah, really, truly. Thank you so much. I enjoyed your questions. Any other questions? And wonderful to see you, Armin John, driving or sitting in the car. Nice to see you. Any other questions, thoughts at this point in time? I know the hour is actually still early in the morning for you guys, or it's reaching afternoon, but any other thoughts or questions? And dear Nakia, you're an excellent MC, by the way. I just want to give you some props on that.
Thank you. So if there's no more questions, I guess we can go to our final prayers.
Yes, and I also want to remind the dear friends to really, in your privacy of your chambers, as well as in your communities, have prayers for in memoriam for, as we're now, as dear Nakia mentioned at the beginning, we're 100 years after the bloodiest episode of racial massacre in this country. It's the first time ever that an orchestrated attack by airplanes happened on a city. And this is a city of Greenwood, which is in Tulsa, which has an incredible, thriving, rich population. And study it, dear friends. I cannot stress that enough. Really study it. Watch the productions that are being made on it. It's something so fundamentally important in our aspect of not only our comprehension to eradicate these inherent prejudices within ourselves, but to be able to be empathetic to the suffering of a population that has been so devastated. And so this is something we should study and then openly share that. Our learnings, our understandings, very important. But yes, and then the other part, the Tulsa massacre, is also our brothers and sisters, our Native Americans, 215 children in Kamloops. This is also, we should share prayers for them. This is two communities And how interesting that the National Spiritual Assembly just wrote us a letter, a call to action. And so this is something that also we should start. Really, I truly, my heart is with every one of you in North Virginia. Love each one of you. Thank you for this space. It is developing to being a great center of learning. Thank you so much.
We have another prayer video, so thank you for your patience.
Say, God sufficeth all things, above all things. Say, God sufficeth. Say, God sufficeth all things, above all things. Say, God sufficeth. Say, God sufficeth all things, things above all things, and nothing in the heavens or in the earth but God sufficeth. Nothing in the heavens or in the earth but God sufficeth. Say God sufficeth. Say God sufficeth. Verily, He is in Himself the knower, the sustainer, the omnipotent.
Okay, everyone. Thank you for those beautiful final prayers. And thank you, Ehsan, for speaking today. It was such a refresher for maybe some of us